I need your opinion on where we are with Flipgate, because he scored, didn't flip. Walk us through everything we know up to this point. If someone doesn't know anything about Flipgate, walk us through the whole thing and where it stands. Because maybe this could be the clip, is what I'm saying. So get it in under Flipgate. 60 seconds if you can.
Yeah, right.
Darren, walk me through Flipgate. Go. Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that was called the best team-specific MLS podcast by an Inter Miami fan on Reddit. I'm Travis Hellwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa.
Whoa, I'm Darren Miller.
We converted one. We got one.
We got one fan from Miami. Welcome to our preview
Fuck
episode.
Fuck you, Miami podcast.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Welcome to our preview episode of LAFC's MLS match versus the Portland Timbers on Saturday, April 19th at 7:15 p.m. at Providence Park. Too many numbers. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass FS1, and I think you can watch it on Apple TV Plus without MLS Season Pass. They're trying to designate that somehow. I'm not really sure. There's weird little icons going on. It's also on Fox Deportes, and our live post-game call-in show will start 10 minutes after the final whistle at youtube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot.
Later in the show, we'll play a game written by Vince, our first Vince exclusive game. And of course, we'll discuss all this week's storylines and make some bets. But first, we talk exclusively about politics. It's time for listener-mandated banter. What? I got a thing or two to say about El Salvador.
Why are we doing that?
Actually, Darren and I will just be quiet. You go off for like 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah. I did like that period of time where every once in a while it'd be like, that woke podcast. It used to be good, but they got woke.
Wait, do people leave those comments?
Is that us?
It was a period of time right after Trump won where I had posted. I remember I said the anti-Trump thing like right around the election. There was like a good 2 months where it was like, can you believe American soccer has gone woke? The most woke sport.
It's really funny to me that people had to wait to hear you go off one day drunk to finally figure that out about you, which is always...
I'm posting things from the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, it's always funny to me. We're friends and we talk all the time and stuff. So I'm more cognizant of what your life is outside of this. But I also figure that like, as much as people are active in the Discord, they're following us like in real life, but I guess not. And also, could we please make a t-shirt with the most woke?
Yeah, I'll find what the comment.
Yeah. Can we just have it be the comment?
Soccer podcast.
Cut it out and put it on the shirt. That's it.
It was funny till it was ruined by woke. Woke, happy foot, woke foot.
Happy foot, woke foot.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you what woke didn't do to us. Didn't make us broke. We've been making money, boys. Lots of super chats.
Do it. That's the only reason we do it.
Just straight cash, baby.
I'm here for the money.
We're playing in the Pacific Northwest this weekend, and we're dealing with some Pacific Northwest weather today.
Huh? Oh,
hey! Trying to transition out of.
Or not?
I'm trying to transition out of talking about politics to talking about the weather.
Oh, okay.
Politics, money,
I
weather.
did not know you were transitioning out of politics because I thought you were just going to bring up Antifa.
Antifa. I do have a hat that says Antifa, and I wore it once and then have been too scared since.
I have a shirt that says Antifa, but like it's as if it's like corporate merch, like internal corporate merch. It's like I think it says like Antifa Corp.
Travis tried to pawn it off to me because I am going to be gone this weekend to hang out with my family and see an Angels game, which will be interesting. But it's an Angels hat that says Antifa, yes. And I was my friend
Joe Mandy embroidered it before a bunch of corporations started stealing his embroidery of hat thing that he does.
And as much as I want to feel like, oh, that was like a really nice thing for Travis to be like, you should wear this because I want you to go to Orange County with an Antifa hat. What are you thinking?
You're going to get stabbed by Eli Lesser down there.
Vince, what happened to you?
Yeah. You went woke.
That was just an angry person. I didn't mean for that to be specifically an Eli Lesser impression.
I was just to be clear, I don't think
he was on the podcast.
I know he does not sound like that.
No?
Darren, you weren't supposed to out Eli Lesser as a fascist on the podcast. Well, we're really letting loose early on, huh?
Yeah. What's
This
up,
is going to be
Eli?
a few people are going to be skipping 45 seconds to get to these
Yeah.
storylines.
Let's
Wrap
start the
it
show.
up.
Let's do soccer things.
Yeah, let's talk about soccer. That was stupid, huh?
Okay. Well, as the casually obsessed LAFC fan on the show, I love LAFC and I'll never miss a match, but I don't have time to stay on top of all the advanced stats, roster moves, rumors, tactics, and off the field drama that I can't get from just watching the matches when all I see watching a match is ball get kicked, ball go in net, Frenchman breathe deep sigh of relief, and humbly withhold flip. Luckily, my friends Travis, the human LAFC crazy wall, and Vince, the human LAFC sane human, are here to catch me up every week on the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of every match so we can all enjoy them so much more in a segment we call Storylines.
Darren, Vince, Dince, I come to you on a full week's rest with storylines for the week. And the first one I think is the one on everyone's mind. And it's this. Are Denny back? After 7 games scoreless in MLS and being outscored by center back Aaron Long, Denny Bouanga finally scored his first regular season goal of the season with a rebound tap-in against San Jose. We've been saying for a long time that Bouanga just needed to see the ball go in the back of the net, and he will finally unlock that vicious foot of his. That said, he seemed understated after his goal, as Darren said, a deep sigh of relief, seemingly not ready to celebrate until he hits a Yoni Lotan coined Bouanga blast. Maybe that's when Flipgate will officially end. And then complicating things, I don't want to bring this up, but I do think it's something we sort of talk about when it comes to Bouanga this week. On a heavier note, his Gabon teammate and former MLS player Aaron Bupenza passed away after a fall from a building in China. The situation's quite unclear. He was in a fight with his brother. It's unclear if it was an accident or something more intentional. But Aaron and Denny played in, I believe, over 20 games together in Gabon. And this type of grief can obviously affect people in a lot of ways. It's certainly worth keeping in mind. If you feel like you need to be mean to him online over the next few weeks, just something to keep in mind, everyone. Let's just think about that for at least a week.
Don't be mean to the players, period.
Yeah, but you're never going to get
there.
them to not be mean
I know,
forever.
but I have to say,
let's just give a pause. Let's give a grief pause for a week to a man who just lost his friend. Vince, what hard pivot.
Let someone grieve for a week.
Let someone grieve for. I've been talking about my dad for 2 years now.
People get a week.
Vince, what did you like from Bouanga against San Jose, if anything? Do you think one goal is enough to get him back on track, or do you think he needs more?
I do think one goal is probably enough to get him back on track, because there were some chances that he had, namely the Miami game, where like you just would count on him to make those chances, and it was apparent that he was really in his head. My only worry though is like last season. So everyone keeps comparing it to last season, where he didn't score in the first 7 games, and so it was another similar kind of start, and then he obviously really started scoring and caught up, and almost was right there at the very end in the Golden Boot race. But remember last season he was also like hitting the post a lot, and like there were some good saves. Like we haven't really seen a lot of those, and I would say I think he was better against San Jose in the ways that he wasn't always dribbling into every double, triple, and quadruple team. But I didn't see a lot that I was like, look, the man's just got to finish. He's just got to get a bit of luck. So I can't definitively say he's back, but at the same time, knowing him and kind of his mentality where it's like, it's all or nothing, getting a goal is the only thing that matters. And maybe that will, in fact, unlock him and he'll start scoring a ton.
And I do think some of it is on him, and he's clearly gotten into his head. But I do think teams have figured out like, oh, there is a way to defend him, right? He's going to cut back on his right foot and try to split the 2 defenders. And if you just place a defender a little bit further back and you know that's what he's going to try to do, you can easily dispossess him on like the side of the box where he always does that. So
now that you've told everyone, Jesus.
But I mean, it just feels like he needs to figure out now, okay, if they've figured out my move, what else can I do? And it seems like in San Jose, he did try to play a little bit different. Darren, I need your opinion on where we are with Flipgate, because he scored didn't flip. Walk us through everything we know up to this point. If someone doesn't know anything about Flipgate, walk us through the whole thing and where it stands. Because maybe this could be the clip, is what I'm saying. So get it in under 60 seconds if you can.
Yeah, right.
Darren, walk me through Flipgate. Go.
Okay, here's the deal with Flipgate. Up until this season, whenever Denny Bouanga scored, I will have to say, without fail, he did an incredible front flip. I believe he had an interview for the team's website where he revealed that he went to some kind of circus school when he was a kid, and that's how he learned how to do a front flip.
That can't be real. That can't be real.
I think so.
I want to believe that he was like,
hey,
if you're asking me about this,
said?
I'm making this up.
Yeah.
Look, I could be wrong.
It feels like something we made up.
Fact check me. I'm not claiming to be right whenever I say stuff on the show.
I'm not saying that you misread or you're making it up. I'm saying I hope to God that the interviewer was like, hey, so you do a flip, and he was like, yeah, I used to be a clown. And
it does feel like, but to me, it feels like Darren was like, well, he was born in France. He worked at Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Flip? That must be from Cirque du Soleil. Yeah. You don't know how woven into society Cirque du Soleil is in France. Okay, when you're a kid, you just go through it. That's just what you do. That's just daycare. That's after school.
They have Cirque du
Mime
Soleil.
School and Cirque du Soleil. Two things all French children do.
Exactly.
Okay, this part will be cut out of the clip. Darren, go back into it.
100%.
Yeah, you're back in.
So this season, things got tricky because, first of all, I don't know if you've caught this so far, he has not scored until very recently at all. So we don't have a huge sample size to draw from. But he did score a couple times in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I'm trying really hard to forget what it is. I'm getting it burnt out of my brain.
It's fair.
CONCACAF Champions Cup. In those situations, he did not flip. And it became kind of a question as to whether that was being told to him from the team. Maybe he shouldn't flip. Maybe he decided on his own. He had some kind of hand injury. And my theory was that the hand injury made him feel a little unsure of himself in terms of like a safety net for if the flip went awry. So he decided not to do it. Then in Gabon, or playing for Gabon on international break, he scored and flipped.
Twice.
Did he flip?
Yeah, both times.
I think he did, yeah.
He did.
So now it's like, what the fuck's happening, right? He came back, and this might have been the first time back. He scored and did not flip. I think his hand bandage is gone, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But now my theory is the goal, it was an open net. It was a tap in. He knows he hasn't scored. He's just not ready. Has not earned a true celebration yet. And he knows it, and he's being humble. And I think he understands that it would not quite be a good look to do a flip after one goal 7 games into the season when we're underperforming as a team as well.
I do think the true test is if he hits a Bouanga blast and he doesn't flip, I think we then know it's mandated by the team, right? Because he did it in Gabon.
How could he not at that point? Yeah, that would be a real tragedy. If he hits an amazing
goal and doesn't flip, it seems as if the team has told him not to do it.
That goal against the Crew was pretty amazing. Just saying.
But he had the bandage. So we're giving benefit of the doubt here, right?
We need no bandage. This is what we need. You're right. Yes, we need no bandage, clean hands, solid goal, Bouanga blast preferred.
Hear me out.
Yep.
What if he scores, it's in Vancouver, does a flip? Is it maybe just within the bounds of the United States?
Oh, it's a legal thing.
I don't know.
Or a protest thing. Maybe it's political.
Yes. He says
I'm just saying
until
there's layers. There's layers to this.
Until we end these tariffs.
He has a platform, guys, and he's using it.
I will bend over backwards until
Yes.
Almost works. Okay. Great clip, Darren. I think you can get that down under 60.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks. Good clip to you, too.
From now on, all of your storyline questions are just going to be trying to farm content.
Fair.
While Bouanga's struggles have been propped up by the rest of the team, we've been holding out hope for a certain Frenchman to come join the squad and save our season, which brings us to our second storyline of the week, which is this. How we feeling about the state of the roster, boys? Fabrizio finally confirmed the rumors this week that the will they, won't they relationship between LAFC and Antoine Griezmann is officially over, with Griezmann agreeing to a contract with Atleti that extends him until 2026. 27. Most LAFC fans believed that this race had already been lost, but now we know it's as good as confirmed as it gets. The Woj of soccer. I guess we call Tom Bogert the Woj of soccer, but we really know that he's the Shams. The Shams is Shams is on the up and up. Shams is making more money.
It's not, I mean, I guess
Woj
it's not
of
really,
MLS,
it's not
at
really
least.
a bad thing. And Woj retired too, so
yeah. And we know Tom
Woj retired?
Yeah, Woj retired. He told me
to go teach.
He made a big deal about the fact that he knew about the Luka trade but didn't break it, and it's like you're not bragging, dog.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Also, when you retire as like the scoops guy, people are like, "Yeah, we don't care anymore."
Yeah, we want this.
offense.
We don't care about you. Don't have a personality. You're news to us.
Yeah.
But most LAFC fans believed we had already lost him, but now it's officially over. It asks a lot of questions as we barrel towards the summer transfer window, which isn't as far away as we think. Certainly, the rumors are going to start bubbling up sooner than we want them to. The questions include Giroud's place as a DP, which keeps coming up, Under's ability to now stay with the club, and where else we need to shore up gaps on the roster. Plus, there have been new rumors, and who knows how fucking true these are, about Gio Reyna, who's leaving Dortmund, potentially having interest from LAFC, although I do think now LAFC is the team that Europe uses to try to gain interest from other European clubs, because LAFC is the one that buys all these players. So when we hear this, should baseline not believe it until we hear it from multiple sources, I would say. And like maybe an American source would be helpful.
Whoa.
And also
You're saying we should put like an America first policy on this, or
we're going real political today. I do feel like we
you
are.
want to put a tariff on the news, on the foreign transfer news? Or
here's what I think. I think Vince has pointed out rightly on the show a bunch of times that there are a lot of content farms overseas that are trying to get clicks around transfer rumors around teams. Because we often don't speak the language that those things are in. Very few of our listeners speak Italian or Spanish. I don't think many of those. Well, I guess a lot of our listeners speak Spanish.
Probably a lot of our listeners speak
French.
Spanish.
French.
Most of our listeners
French
speak
is a
Spanish.
better example, right? But like in fact, we are the only people involved in the podcast that don't speak Spanish.
Yep. Unfortunately. Yeah.
But I will say, like,
slowly proving my point.
A lot of times we do not know what is a credible source versus not a credible source, especially now that anyone can have a fucking blue check mark.
And we talked a little bit about how agents and teams actually plant stories.
Yes.
So sometimes like it is a credible source because it literally came from the team, but they're just doing that because they know, again, people love that stuff, and it gets out in the news, and then it rolls through the cycle, and then it gives some kind of leverage. So there's a lot of things to really consider. I think that's really the big thing is like, don't just read something and go, oh my God, and then lose your mind when it doesn't happen, especially if you're getting mad at the team, because a lot of times it's just made up.
There's also and then there's also content farming things in the LAFC and MLS world who will pick up those stories, put them out, and gain their own money from engagement for clicks or whatever, right? So like, I
thought that didn't happen in America.
I'm saying I
thought they weren't sending their best from overseas.
God damn it, Darren!
That was actually.
tired of this, baby.
I know you really you went political there, but that should have been a spot to bring back the Eli joke.
Oh no!
Yeah,
he knows I love him.
We love you, Eli.
This whole episode is going to start in a loop. It's going to open with me going, "Are we back?" And then it's going to end with me going, "Which begs the question." And so if you listen in a loop,
we can't pull that off like him.
Okay, and all of that news with Gio Reyna and Griezmann aside, roster spots are also confusing right now because Chanot picked up another head knock. We don't have a ton of information about how he's feeling, but LAFC Daniel reported today that both Martinez and Abobasi are fully fit for the match this week, so we know they're back. But who knows if they could push Ordaz out of the starting lineup? We didn't mind the front three of Bouanga, Giroud, and Ordaz. Vince, we're about a quarter of the way through the season. How are you feeling about the LAFC roster as a whole? Where do you think we need to improve? Where do you feel like we're the strongest?
I mean, I'm not super confident. I still like a lot of the pieces that they brought in, but some of the new players haven't exactly given me a lot of confidence. Bobasi being injured kind of gives him like a incomplete. Like, I don't know totally what to feel about him, but he's been out for, it's been like, I guess with CCC and everything, total of like 4 or 5 games, right? So it's a good chunk. One thing to note, the primary transfer window is still open. I know we're talking about Griezmann and talking about big European names who wouldn't be coming really in this window because they're under contract, and they're teams that, like Griezmann, that are playing for something aren't exactly going to be like, well, you could just go early. But next Wednesday is the closing of the primary window, so there still could be some action from LAFC. Maybe it's even interleague action. One thing that we haven't talked about with LAFC because they haven't done it is the ability to make a cash offer to a team, not GAM, real, actual hard cash, and get a player. There's areas of concern. If either of the fullbacks get hurt, there's not a lot of depth at the fullback. I think Artem is a interesting player, but he's clearly very young, has not figured out the league, and I don't quite know, other than hitting a banger, what he does for the team. And I'm not going to expect him to hit bangers every week. His dribbling ability hasn't seemed to be there. He doesn't seem to be like this offensive dynamo, and definitely defensively doesn't seem like he's there yet.
What makes him a soccer player then?
Right. Yeah. So what do you do then? You're young and you have potential. That's basically what
he
he's
makes
got
the
going
one
for
guy
him.
who brings the Ukrainian flag to games really happy.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a complaint that a lot of people have with LAFC. Is a lot they do bring in at times young players where it's like, I guess, but like I don't see anything. And clearly they did see something. Like this is a risk. It's a high risk, high reward type situation. Similar to Owen Holm, who hasn't really had enough time to do anything, but I still think he can be a good player. Like there's just a lot of question marks. And we did this exercise after one of the games where we basically said like, okay, you have a starting 11. We think that's decent starting 11, but we know there's going to need to be depth. How many players do you confidently say, like, I feel really good when he comes off the bench, or I feel really good if he has to start a match? And we were like, one, maybe two. And I'm going to reiterate this. You probably, to be fair, like no MLS team has a straight change, right? Like, and by that I mean like a Man City where like they change over their team completely and you're like, wow, they still have world-class players all sitting on the bench. But really good MLS teams, I think, have 4 to 5 guys that they can count on to start in any given moment, give them actual minutes with actual impact, and or come off the bench in games and give them, a goal or an assist or really change games. And I just don't see that with LAFC right now. So there's still time to make a move. And I don't know. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they did for all those reasons.
Darren, of all of our offseason signings, who's surprised you the most, do you think?
In a good way or a bad way?
You're the one answering the question, man. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Whoa.
You're pissing me off today, Darren. I'm not giving you any help.
I am, aren't I? I'm noticing this. I guess that's kind of in agreement with Vince. I guess the problem is that I can't say I'm surprised by anyone. Like, I'm waiting to be surprised. I've been more surprised by our guys that have, like, people like Martinez and Ordaz who have stepped up a little bit more than we expected. I was expecting to be surprised by Under, and I'm not yet. I could be. I guess Delgado, but that's not that surprising that he's playing well. Who was it supposed to be? I don't know. Who's the right answer? I don't think there is one.
Yeah, I think there was a world, and we were all really hoping Nkosi Tafari would be a superstar.
Yeah.
Or even Yaw Yaboa, because I'm like, I want to keep saying the name Yaw Yaboa.
Maybe it's surprising that he's surprising in a bad way. Like, he just seems like a complete flop. But again, like,
I think
no one came to us like, this guy's a sure thing to be huge, or like, let's see, I don't know. Like,
I don't think Nkosi's been a flop.
Yeah, I think Yaw's been a flop.
Oh, you're talking
Yaw Yaboa.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been pretty underwhelming.
I think Nkosi is probably our best sub at the moment, right? Like in those positions, but he's still like, it hasn't been the strongest showing from either of them. I do think that but again, it's not a surprise. We know Mark Delgado is good. We knew he'd be really good, right? So it's not that big of a surprise.
I think there are things to be surprised by, and all of them have to do with players that we already had.
Yeah, and when Nkosi comes into a game, it's not really to change a game per se. It's usually to keep a game where it's at, right? He's a defender. And if he starts games, it's usually, again, to just kind of keep the status quo and defend well. Like, Kirk talked about it in the last episode. That year they won MLS Cup, they had the most goals by subs in league history. Again, just go down the list. Who when LAFC needs a goal, are you like, I feel really good when he comes in the game? If they're not already in the game, you know what I mean? So that's the thing. A lot of times, I think we all agree we would like Martinez to just be starting. So if he's already on the field, who comes in? It's really just a toss-up between Martinez and Ordaz. Is like, impact players, but they're going to have to be starting games because guys like Giroud aren't contributing
yet.
yet.
I
You still
I'm
holding
back
out
on
hope.
the train now because he
I
touched
love
the
it.
ball 18 times last game.
Well,
Literally, that was it too. Just touch the ball 18
forwards,
times.
it's interesting to think about with Bouanga back on track. I'm not saying that because he is. I'm saying if he's back on track, if Giroud keeps making those baby steps and everyone's healthy,
He's our best academy
By the time
player.
playoffs come around, Giroud's going to be killing it.
well, and we stay healthy, like that's the deepest part of the team easily.
I mean, Gareth Bale was the original Olivier Giroud, and Gareth Bale is now on the Mount Rushmore of LAFC. So all he needs is one
some
important
people's
goal.
Mount Rushmore.
He won us the game. Okay, all of this leads us to Saturday when I will be in Las Vegas for WrestleMania, but I will still be doing the post game. I'm still doing the post game. I changed my flight to make sure that I'd be there in time to do it. So don't worry.
Wow.
But that brings us to our final storyline of the week, and it's this: is Portland for real? Over the last few years, Portland's fallen quite a bit far down the table as a team we have to worry about. I would say maybe when we joined the league, Portland was a good team, and they kind of really haven't been something we had to think about since then. To start the year, they're tied with San Diego and Colorado for third in the West with 14 points in 8 games, with 4 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. And just a reminder, we're way back in 7th in the West with 14 points, 2 points behind them, and 4 wins and 4 losses, a team incapable of having a draw. Vince, what do you think we need to know about Portland this year? How scared should we be?
I think this is a really good litmus test for LAFC. They dropped out of CCC in a tough way. Then we wanted to see some kind of reaction against San Jose. It wasn't the best game, but they got it, right? And that was important. Now it's like, okay, you're going to come up against a team who won in the standings is ahead of you, and they're playing probably their best football they've played in a while. I believe they won 3 in a row, and they've had some good, I think 2 clean sheets out of those 3. What's interesting about Portland is if they're going to be good, they're going to have to be like the anti-Portland. Portland, we've always thought of as good as like a really good defensive team that sits back, defends its box, and just counterattacks really well through 1 or 2 good attacking players like Diego Valeri. Now, dude, they're flush with attacking players. They have a lot of guys that are scary out there. And that's kind of interesting about them because I feel like they're going to have to outscore their competition if they're really going to be good. They're actually running a little hot in their goal scoring. Like they're scoring more goals than the chances they're really creating. But they do have, really good players. David Costa is a player, DP that they picked up from Lens. Kevin Kelsey is a name that people might remember, played for FC Cincinnati, but before that came from Shakhtar Donetsk. He's a big, strong number 9. Jonathan Rodriguez, who LAFC fans will remember as being basically an LAFC player until he took the bag and went to Saudi Arabia, is a really good player. He's just coming back from injury. They still have Santi Moreno. They have Anthony. So they have like a lot of good attacking pieces. But then when you look at them defensively, you're like, I don't know. I mean, even Mascara, who's a good fullback, is known more for his offensive prowess. And so I think that they can be beaten, but right now they're in a really good run of form. So that's why I say for LAFC, this is a really good test to understand, like, okay, we got knocked out. We kind of got our footing again. But now how do we come up against a team that has firepower, has like legit weapons, and they're at home? So I think if LAFC goes and gets a result there, then maybe we can really definitively answer that "are we back?" question.
And LAFC has been quite weak on the road, right? We've been a lot better at home than we've been away. Darren, Portland really stuck a lot of their claim into the millennial hipster aesthetic, right? They really said that's the definition of our city. And that's sort of Portland still leaning into that feels a little bit to me like those clubs on the Sunset Strip, like the Viper Room, where people still dress like hair metal never went away. What do you think? Do you think Portland still is cool, or do you think it's a bit over now as a cool place?
Well, as a millennial, yeah, I think it's still cool.
Yeah, fixed gear bicycles are cool.
I think it's just a question of like how deep you go into it. Like you got
how long you stay.
Yeah, it's a small doses thing.
As a person who grew up in that generation, that'll always be cool.
Yeah. It's things that I find cool, but now like done too far, too much by people that will make me angry that they're the ones doing it and charging too much for it.
I think the right answer is that we're we're no longer the arbiter of cool, unfortunately.
It's nice of you to think that we ever were.
Vince might have been. Vince could have been.
Yeah.
But Vince was going to the Viper Room.
That's true.
This was performing at the
part
Viper
of me
Room.
died a little bit when you made fun of the Viper Room because I was like, the Viper Room's kind of cool. And actually, I have played at the Viper Room.
See?
That is cool. I mean, the Viper Room is the only
timeless.
one.
I was going to say, my first reaction was going to be, hair metal never died.
Here's what I'll say. I've never been to any of those clubs, but I used to work at an office.
You've never been to
across
any
the
of
street.
them? Like you've never been to the Roxy? You've never been?
No.
I've never been to any of them.
No. But I worked.
Have you ever been to the Troubadour?
I've been to the Troubadour, yeah.
Okay,
but I don't put the
Yeah.
Troubadour's
Troubadour
outside.
in that.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's because it's not on Sunset Strip. It's outside of that. But like, when I think of just really great rock clubs in Los Angeles, like the Troubadour is the top of the top for me.
But-
and I was like, hey, guys, if you haven't gone there, please at least go.
I've
there.
been to the Troubadour, I've been to the Palladium, but I feel like I think of like Viper Room and the Roxy because I used to work in an office building across the street, and there'd always just be like men in their 50s in leather jackets lining up to see shows there, and I'm like, man, this doesn't feel good. It's coming for us all the time that passes. We're gonna die soon, all of us. When we come back, we're gonna play a game.
That was it?
Yeah, I was just curious what you thought about Portland still being a hipster place, because hipster was cool when we were 22.
I wonder what Portland is like now.
Is that where they legalize drugs?
I've never been there.
Seattle.
Were they what?
Legalized drugs.
I think it is.
Washington.
I think both Washington and Oregon
Both.
decriminalized drugs.
But there was there was one where they were like, you won't get arrested here for it, and then they had to walk it back because they didn't put any regulations on it.
Yeah, it's not legalizing; it's decriminalized.
Yeah.
It's different.
But then the
Not
cops,
that I would know.
The
Not
cops
that I would
fucked
know.
it up because the cops were like, well, we're not going to arrest any. It's not worth our time or whatever. And then it just turned the city very scary for a brief period.
They're like, you still got to take the drugs, just don't bring them in. They're like, oh, well, that's not fun.
Yeah, we don't get to beat anyone up.
Yeah, we got to leave them alone.
All right, we're cutting out this part too. We've talked too much about politics.
Yes.
Final follow-up question. Darren, ever been to Portland?
No, I've never been to Portland. I've always wanted to go. I think I'd have a better answer to your question if I had spent some time there.
You know, I thought you would have been to Portland.
Yeah.
This
You
would have been a
look
fun
like the
game to go
type.
to.
Yeah.
Actually, Portland is
Because I'm
really
wearing
fun.
flannel?
The stadium is fun. Yeah, because you are wearing flannel and you're unshaven and you got kind of messy hair.
I walked by that stadium when I was there.
I'm just a dad who hasn't slept. That's
Which
what
is
this is.
which is 90% of Portland.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that the stadium is like kind of in the fabric of like a really cool neighborhood too. Like it's like a very walkable stadium.
Yep.
It made me, and I like peeked through, and it like goes down, right? Like it's a very cool.
Wait,
I really want to go
that's
there.
next level Happy Foot, Sad Foot.
If it had real
Walkable stadium neighborhood.
if
Yeah.
it had real grass.
Yeah, but I think you
Oh.
told me that the reason it doesn't have grass is because it goes down, right? Because it's underground, it floods, so they can't have real grass or something.
I didn't
It
say
had, like-
that, but that makes sense. The drainage would make sense.
It has
There's something kind
to
of
do with
fucked
it.
up
It had like
about.
cement underneath or something.
Oh, it
There's
was a
kinda-
baseball field.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's kind of something fucked up about having not real grass, but then a real lumberjack in the stands
Yeah.
cutting a tree.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And then your colors are green.
And do we know
Right.
if he's a real lumberjack?
Whoa.
Think
makes
about
you think.
it.
Does
Makes
he
you
does he have a
think.
beard? Those are the sort of questions we ask here at Happy Foot, Sad Foot. When we come back, we're going to play a game written by none other than Vince LaRosa. And we're back. Vince joined our podcast a year and a half ago. And since then, he's brought us knowledge and entertainment and joy and friendship. But one thing he's never brought us is a game. And that ends today. We have no idea what's about to happen. Darren and I are not briefed at all on the situation. And so I turn it over to you, our good friend Vince LaRosa, for the Vince LaRosa game, whose name we don't yet know.
Well, this is a good intro, but I want to be just clear here. This is not us just killing time because we couldn't think of anything else. We definitely had big plans for this game. Travis is underselling it because he's just not sure. He doesn't want to put me under too much pressure because if you listen to this podcast, normally Darren does the games and actually spends like hours and hours doing them. That's why they're so great. And then he spends hours afterwards editing them. So they're so great. So that's why I wanted to do a game that specifically spotlights our man Darren.
You're like spotting
In
him.
a
Yeah,
good way?
maybe we'll find. I mean, it's up to you, buddy.
Okay.
I'll say
I
that.
had a feeling.
And because I am not as talented as you, Darren, or as funny as you, Travis, I clearly had to go into my
Fuck
lane.
you, Darren. I'm the funny one.
Yeah, this is hurting already.
I'm just saying. I said we're talented. Calm down.
No, I don't want talented.
Oh, fine. Well, fuck it. Let's just not do the game.
Funny if you say hottest. I'll give you.
You already did it.
That's true.
Ugh.
But because I wasn't going to try to do a bad rendition of either of you, I went stuck in my lane. And so this is a soccer game. And this game is called Does Darren Know? And specifically what we're going to do here is I'm going to give Darren a tactical term. And as king of the casuals, as you said, I've been here for a year and a half. Darren, I would hope that some of my knowledge has at least seeped into your brain. Although we've already referenced that you're a dad that's not sleeping. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you're going to remember any of the things that I've told you, but I'm going to put these out to you. I'm going to ask you to answer them. And just because I know that if Travis is not talked to for more than a couple minutes at a time in this podcast, he will lose his mind. He'll probably literally get up and leave.
I have something to add.
There it is.
Exactly. Travis will be part of this game because before you answer, Darren, I'm going to ask Travis if he thinks you know.
Oh, boy.
Great.
Because that's more fun. And honestly, I'm curious if Travis has been paying attention to what I've been saying. And so I want him to kind of meld what I've been saying and think like, if I've got it, then maybe Darren's got it.
Mm-hmm. And I think I know more about Darren than I do about soccer. So this is good.
Oh, this
for
is
me,
good.
Actually.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do think, Darren, I know you do a lot of editing, but it would be helpful if you could spend all night recording a parody version of Scotty Doesn't Know, but make it Darren Doesn't Know. And we can play it at the beginning of this segment.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be great.
Sure.
If you don't mind doing that tonight, that'd be great.
We'll see what I can do.
And keep in mind, I don't have any kids.
Uh-huh. But it seems like the main point that we also established recently is that you don't have any talent.
Yes. So I couldn't do it. So I couldn't
You can't do it.
I would much rather be hot and dumb and talentless than anything else.
And funny.
No truer words have ever been spoken by you.
Any day you want to trade, you let me know.
He's not lying, folks.
My trainer was like, "What are your fitness goals?" I was like, "I just want to be hot." And she was like, "No one's ever been honest with me before."
I thought you would have just pointed to a hot person and went,
I make her tell me every single time I go, "Who do you think's the strongest in the gym?" And she has to say me.
Oh, that's amazing. But you do pay this person, so that's kind of your job.
It's the least you could do. All right,
Okay.
I'm ready for the game.
Darren doesn't know.
You're ready. Okay, so again, I'm going to put out a tactical term. Look, we've talked about tactics. A lot of this is there's a give and take here. There's a leeway in between. So I'll be the arbiter of whether or not Darren got it, right? Like, because explaining tactics is difficult, but these are jargon terms that a lot of people use that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably heard us use it and then never explain it. So maybe pay attention because we are going to actually explain it.
Wait, you're going to give me the term and I'm going to have to do the whole explanation?
Yeah, and then I'll go back and I'll correct you. But I think I feel good about
I'm
this.
not gonna
This
do
is
it.
good, though. This is good because it'll be educational for our listeners who need to know these things as well.
And some of these
Yes.
are easy. Actually, Darren, I'll be very
They're
disappointed.
not easy. I'm not going to get them,
Some
but it's
of-
okay because that's
Let's
the whole
just
thing.
try
That's
it.
why
Let's
I'm
just
here. I
try
have
it.
no shame.
Okay.
Rip the
I
Band-Aid off.
don't
Let's
mind
do
being
it.
wrong.
Let's just go for it. I'm going to give you an easy one off the top. And I don't say that
call it easy.
No, come on.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but before you answer, I'm going to go
Yep.
to Travis. Okay. The term is park the bus.
Darren knows what park the bus means. Yes.
All right, Darren. In your best estimation, what is park the bus?
Park the bus is when a team is ahead and decides they want to possibly change their formation, but most importantly, change their tactics, I guess, to play much more defensively and stay back a lot more so that they just eke out the victory. Don't worry about attacking as much. Often this includes trying to bring the ball into the opposing team's corner and trapping it there for as long as possible at the very end of the match. No?
You were doing good for a while, I feel like.
You
I guess
started.
that's not parking the bus so much as like that's wasting time.
Well,
That's
I'm
more time wasting.
I am
But,
going to give it
yeah.
to you because one, you're overthinking it. You started really rough, but the middle part, you nailed it exactly. There you go.
Oh, hell yeah.
You nailed it exactly, which is the sitting deep, tactically wanting to eke out a victory, possibly not really caring so much about attacking. And I brought this one up for a specific reason because we've been hearing this term a lot. And I will be honest, a lot of people don't use this anymore because people have gotten this so wrong. They think that anytime a team defends at any point in the match and they're in their own half, that they're parking the bus. But it is specifically what Darren said in the middle, which is when you're sitting deep, you're not really caring about attacking at all. And then you're just trying to eke out a victory. Now, the stuff about the corner, so Darren was just trying to.
Yeah, that was just wasting
he's just
time.
saying things,
I was conflating two different things.
Yeah, hoping I would pick up on them. But I wanted to point this out specifically because just because LAFC sits deep doesn't mean they're parking the bus, because you literally, to park the bus, have to basically win the ball, just kick it away, and then start to defend again. I would say LAFC is trying to score goals. So this tactic is something that is important. Okay, Darren.
What people miss is that they suck at scoring goals. That's the issue.
Yeah, well, there's no rule in the book that says you have to score the goals. That's on your own. Yeah, that's on your own. Darren, this is in honor of our guest from last week.
Okay.
What is counterpress? Not the show. What is the tactic counterpress?
It's a great show.
But before you answer, Travis.
I think Darren sort of knows what counterpress means.
Well, I'm going to have to
That's
press
very
you
accurate.
there. Yes, he probably sort of knows what all these things mean.
Okay, so I'm going to say yes, Darren knows what counterpress means.
Darren?
Okay. I'm going to guess that counterpress is when you press in order to trigger the counter to win on transition, or it's when hold on, I'm going to have another guess. It's when you've given the ball away and you high press immediately to win the ball back.
Did you look up the term all of a sudden?
No.
You were.
I'm just confused about because
maybe you just need to
I feel
talk
like I
through
had
these
different ways of
things.
explaining it that I knew
Sure.
were no, that's something else.
I think maybe
Was I right the second time?
Yeah, press versus counterpress is an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I get confused about. Like I know what it's all this constellation of
I saw you
winning on transition and pressing.
And transition's not totally wrong either. You're like trying to maybe create another transition moment. Really, look, this.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is another reason why I wanted to do the game. These terms that people will throw at you, I would ask you if you're like, I don't know if that person knows what they're talking about. Ask them what they're talking about, because they're actually easier than you think. And if they can't explain it, they definitely don't understand what they're talking about.
But at the same time, I will say, as somebody who just gets a lot through osmosis, like when you're watching a game and you're seeing a thing and someone is like, oh, the counter press or whatever, you do just kind of like get it. Like explaining it is a whole different thing, but like just being like, yeah, that makes sense. That checks out. I get that that's counter press.
Well, I would take it one farther. If you're watching the game and someone says, hey, it's weird, whenever they lose the ball, all of a sudden all their attackers try to go win the ball back real quick. If that person goes like, we don't know what you're talking about, they don't know what they're talking about, because that exactly is what counter pressing is. If you can describe what it is without having to have some snazzy word, you know more about soccer than everyone that throws around these words. I will say that 100%.
Is there a specific difference between counter press and other types of pressing?
Well, high pressing in general is usually a part of counter pressing, but it's more from a set tactical reference point where the other team starts the ball maybe from a goal kick, or they're just trying to play out the back, and then you have a structure in which you press. When you counter press, there's less a structure and more just
it's more erratic.
Yeah, it's more a commitment from your team. Like your players know, because for the most part, players when they lose the ball, they either stop and or drop back. And if you can train your players to be like, the second we lose the ball, we're going to be in an area where we're going to go after it. And also maybe when they're moving the ball, they're saying, well, let's keep short passes, because if we have long passes, you can't counter press long distances. You have to do it in short areas, right? So maybe you're even using the ball in a way that if you do lose it, you are now setting up the other team to be counter pressed, which is why Darren was partially right with saying you're trying to create transition moments. Some teams do actually use it while they're using the ball. They're like literally setting you up to get counter pressed.
Well, I'm so happy that people who don't know these things will now know them.
Well, to Darren's point, I think when you get it kind of explained to you, you're now going to start to be like, oh my God, I've been watching it the whole time. I've just been not explaining it that way. And that's totally fine. Again, I want people to watch the game. I want you to watch the game. I don't want you to know the jargon. I want you to watch the game and go like, oh, I saw this and this happen. Well, then you probably are seeing the game. Great. Okay.
And Travis, you knew.
And again, the things that Vince are saying is like what I would be saying. Yeah.
That's what Travis would be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Travis is trying to understand like these words that are in my head that I know this so well. Could it be possible that Darren could even have an inkling of these?
Yeah. Right. Which is how he usually thinks about anything that both of us are talking about.
And like I said, I don't know everything, but I do have the capacity to know the most. And I think that's true.
All right, what's the next one?
Yeah, let's move on. Darren, this is a term that you maybe have heard, and it sounds like I'm just saying something, but it is an actual technical thing that coaches will talk about. What are second balls? And Travis, try not to laugh too much. Come on.
I think that Darren doesn't instinctually know this, but he will get the answer right based on the name.
He can figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first part's true. Oh, was I supposed to play it off like I knew? Second ball. I'm trying to come up with an explanation that isn't just like a second chance. Mm-hmm. Can you use it as a sentence, please?
Yeah, Steve will say from time to time, we just weren't winning the second balls.
That's not second chance?
You tell me.
Is it just a way of saying the second chance that you have at something?
It's a little more specific though. Like what do you mean by second
ball
chance?
In a sequence?
You're getting warmer.
Okay, yeah. A sequence is started and it's the second ball that is theoretically meant to be.
This is like when someone who's trying to like reach the page limit on an essay that they don't know what they're writing about.
Right. This is Billy Madison when he's trying to spell the word and like glean it from the teacher. Yeah. You're very close, Darren.
I can't remember ever hearing that term, for the record.
Second ball, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is very generic, but it is a specific thing that coaches say. It basically is. You were kind of the way there. It is a second chance in a way. It's basically a moment in which the ball could have been controlled by a player, maybe in a duel, maybe it's just a header, but then you get that next, as you said, chance.
A second chance?
You win the ball.
So that was right.
Yeah, but chance is like scoring a goal. Like I
thought you meant like when it ricochets.
No, a second chance at like a 50-50.
Well, this is what I was trying to ask
chance in a play.
Oh, well,
you didn't say it, Darren.
50-50 or second chance at gaining the ball. It really is about gaining possession, less about chance. That's why I was trying to lead you a little bit when I was like, what do you mean by second chance?
Got it. Okay, so it is that specific.
Darren, I tried. I'm just going to say
I know, you clearly did.
Okay. Let's move on.
And I'll only try so much.
Let's move on. I don't want to help Travis, but if I had to guess, Darren's not going to get this one. Sorry. Darren, do you know what zone 14 is?
Oh.
Darren knows this one.
Whoa. Yeah, totally. Zone 14 is the Zone 14. Well, let's see, Vince.
You know the first 13 zones for sure.
Yeah, of course. It's always that pesky 14th zone.
Right.
Travis knows.
You thought there was only 13 zones, but I got you.
Yeah.
That's what's confusing. It's like, I could have sworn there were 13.
Actually, I'll give you a hint. There's 18 zones.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Well, if you split the field into 18 zones, I would say the 14th zone is the one, between the box and the circle. The final third, one might say.
Wait, if it's broken down into 18 zones and you're going to say the final
the
third?
Final third and half.
I still feel like, we're not there. We're not there.
How many? That's too many zones. Vince.
I don't know this. Is it the 6-yard box?
No.
Okay,
close.
I don't know.
Darren, you were also somewhat close.
Is it just the box? Is it just
no. It is a specific. So as positional play and as more coaches have gotten kind of into the idea that they want players to control space and they want players to be in certain spaces, they did split up. Coaches have kind of split up, or coaching philosophies have split up the pitch into 18 zones and starts, obviously from defense into attack. So as we're getting into higher zones, you're getting closer to the opponent's goal. Zone 14 is literally the space, basically where the D is, just above the box. So
Darren's thing was almost right. He said between the box and the circle.
Okay, well, for a second there, when I said just where the D is, Darren looked like he was like, "What's the D?"
What is the D?
It's right there on the top of the 18-yard box or the penalty area.
I've never seen a D when looking at that in my life.
Wow. Okay, well, we call that
Makes
the
sense
D,
now.
and that won't be a question, but that's what a lot of people will call the D.
me
People
the
call it the D?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a D.
You got to get that D?
Well, they don't, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, that's
So
part of
if-
why zone 14 is important, because in that
If
area,
Darren
the
said
pitch,
top of the box, would he have gotten it?
I would have given it to him, yeah. Top of the box. But it's
That did not cross my mind.
the reason why zone
specifically.
14 is said a lot instead of people saying like, oh, zone 17 is, if you think about it, that area of the pitch is vital to both teams, right? The defensive team doesn't want you in there. And if you can get to that area, you can either score or create goals basically to either side of the goal. The goal is always in the middle of the field. So the middle of the field is that much more important. But zone 14 is what a lot of people will say is the most dangerous area of the pitch. Although nowadays, a lot of teams are already defending that area. So you got to find ways to get around it or move the opponent to then get into that area to play. You to either shoot and or play in players to have high scoring chances, high probability scoring chances. Yeah.
If you're a star soccer player and then you're endorsing an energy drink, I feel like that's what the energy drink should be called.
Or like if you're launching
Zone 14.
zone 14,
Yeah.
Well, it definitely shouldn't be called the D.
the D. It honestly might work if you call it the D.
Yeah.
Depends.
I'm craving the D.
Yeah,
Oh, I got to get some of that D.
Depends on where
I
you're
need to
launching
get D
it.
before the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sunny D?
that D.
I wrote a lot of these, but let's just do two more and we can
Two
always
more
play the
sounds
game
great.
again.
Yeah, I would love to play this again.
Darren, this is a term that we've used often as LAFC fans.
I know what
People
this is going to be.
either love it or hate it. False nine.
Oh.
Travis, does Darren know?
My guess was
what
going
a
to be
false
hold up
nine
play.
is? Hold up play.
Um,
I did not use hold up play because I've explained that to you literally in an episode.
I think.
Well, I
Okay,
still wouldn't have gotten it.
I think we have. I think I asked you early on last season what false nine meant, and so I'm gonna say Darren does know false nine.
Darren?
No chance.
I think you could intuit false
Yeah.
nine.
Give me
from
a second
the name.
and I'll figure it out. I've always kind of accepted it when I've heard it. It's someone playing. I'm actually not good. I'm not great with the numbers. It's someone playing the role of a nine. I don't know how to explain it other than that gives you confidence that I actually got it. Someone playing the role of the nine, even though that's not their actual position. I need to be more specific than that.
Yeah. Like what? How do they play the role?
What does a nine normally do? And
They
how
score goals.
And then
Yeah.
in what way? In what way? And then how could you maybe be a false nine?
You're leading the line in the middle of the pitch and finishing from crosses and set pieces.
That's what a nine normally would do. What would a false nine do? And Vince, am I
Do
wrong
that
here?
even
I
though
think
that's
that
not their
I'm-
position.
No, you're definitely helping him.
Okay, good. I'm making sure that I'm.
Well, isn't it just like you do those things even though you're an 8 or a 10 or whatever?
No. No, you legitimately are.
You wait. You fake that you're gonna do that. You're gonna do those things,
Sort
but
of,
then you pull
sort of.
back.
Sort of.
but I wouldn't say fake. So in
You
soccer,
draw the defense.
see, but now we've helped you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be fair. We've talked about this often. Look, the best way to score goals is to get the ball central and as close to the goal as possible. So if you're a guy that, to Darren, to your point, you're the nine, your job is to score goals. Where would you want to be throughout the game? Probably as close to the goal as possible and central. So throughout soccer history, most players playing in that position have decided the rest of the pitch does not matter. I get paid to score goals. Well, there has been times, and famously, Pep Guardiola did this with Lionel Messi, who may or may not have been the creation of it. I don't believe so. It probably has happened at other times in history, but basically he put Leo Messi in as the nine, as the furthest player forward. And then Messi just kind of refused to always be found in that spot. He was dropping into midfield. He was linking up play. He was doing the type of things that strikers generally don't do.
It's the opposite.
And then he was orchestrating play in a way in which he then could still get back into the play and score goals. So a false nine is just, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone not playing in their position. There are guys that play this role really well nowadays that it's become so popular. But think of it as a forward who does not just stand in between the center backs and wait for his chances. He instead is part of the play, part of the buildup, part of the team's chance creation in all aspects of it, not simply just finishing it off.
Have we had any false nines in LAFC history?
Carlos Vela has played in that role, and false nine is interesting for LAFC, especially for the early years, because Bob so loved having goal scoring wingers. But in order to do that, you kind of have to have a 9 that lures the rest of the defense, that sucks the defense in, so those wingers can do that. And so use Carlos there. A lot of people didn't like that. It's obviously where Carlos thrived in the season that he broke the goals record. He did play a lot of false 9. I mean, he can do that because, as we've talked about, he has the ability to drop off strikers, play, and then still get back onto a play and score goals.
But then someone like Chicho is just a straight number 9, right?
Chicho's more of a straight 9, although we have seen him now actually start to drop deeper, which is interesting as he plays with Joseph Martinez. So it's not something that I think it's confused, because it's, when you hear it as a term, you're like, well, then they must always just be doing that thing. And it's something that, again, soccer is fluid, and there's times where you can play as a false 9 or you can play as a true 9. I just think there are players that,
I mean, within the same game,
and there are players like Chicho that I think can do both, but there are also players that cannot do both. There's guys that will like absolutely never be able to, like I said, occupy the center backs high up the field, run past them, and maybe put in a header. Versus there's also these big guys that, like, if you were to tell them like, hey, instead of standing up near the goal, could you maybe drop back and help us a little bit when we have the ball? They would be like, you're fucking crazy. I'm not doing that. Like, Giroud can do a little bit of both, but the reason why we're wanting him to do different things is because he doesn't really have the legs to get back to that area. So maybe they just want him to stay up there. But LAFC doesn't play with a 9 where they just send crosses and just feed him all day in front of the goal.
Unless
so
it's
instead
Kai
he
Kamara.
stays offside at all times.
Yeah, or just doesn't touch the ball.
Unless,
or both.
Last game he touched it 18 times.
18 times, baby.
18.
We should
Zone
have a
18,
t-shirt.
right? That's what that means? That's what Zone 18 is?
I was there when Olivier Giroud touched the ball 18 times.
Actually, if I'm thinking about it correctly, Zone 18 is probably in one of the corners. So...
Okay, I mean, I was purposely saying it wrong, but I didn't know that.
I signed Olivier Giroud, and all I got was one game where he touched the ball
18 times.
The shirt for John Thorrington and no one else.
We'll give it to him as a gift. All right, last one, Vince. So far, Darren's batting 1,000.
Yeah, last one.
I'm perfect.
This is one that is thrown around a lot, and I believe it's the name of a podcast. Double pivot. Travis?
Double pivot.
Darren does not know what a double pivot is. Darren does not know what a double pivot is. In basketball terms, he does, though.
Oh, is it the same? Double pivot. Can you use it in a sentence, please?
LAFC is considering using a double pivot against Portland. I don't know if that's true, but they could be.
That's so unhelpful, Vince.
I know, but I did use it in a sentence.
Use a double pivot. Maybe this is a way to switch fields and kind of passing back to the defense to bring it forward and like kind of half playing out of the back a little bit. You kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. This is probably the one you did the worst on, actually.
Yeah.
Double pivot.
I'm just trying to. I couldn't think of anything that was a pivot motion.
Well, double pivot is something that pertains to LAFC because they generally don't play with one, and actually, a lot of people would like them to. It's basically the way you structure your midfield. So let's talk about LAFC's midfield, the way they're structured now.
Okay.
We usually think of Igor Jesus as the deepest guy, closest to the defense, and then we think of Timothy Tillman and Mark Delgado ahead of him. So you kind of think of an inverted triangle. Now, if you were to say, "Hey, Igor, why don't you stand next to Delgado, why don't you stand next to Jesus, and then Timmy, you just go ahead of them and you make a right-sided, a traditional triangle," that would be a double pivot. Basically, it's structuring your midfield so that there are two players at the base of the midfield in front of your defenders. Now, those players can either be super defensive, or you can have one, a lot of teams will play in a way in which one goes forward, one covers, but it basically is a way in which when you're lined up, they are usually always next to each other. And like we said with LAFC, you see LAFC generally with only one deep player and two forward. So they're not a team that uses double pivot often.
And what is
do they flank the guy in the middle? Are they like little tiny internal wingers?
At times, I mean, I think LAFC at times will have like a flat 3. I think they have a flat 3 more than anything, where just the 3 are considered, they're in a line and their job is to kind of cover that whole middle of the field from sideline to sideline. But as we've seen, a lot of times Igor Jesus will drop just a little bit deeper. And then especially in possession, he's kind of on his own. And the 2 are moving forward to help progress the ball forward more. So that's why they would be what you would consider a single pivot.
I was going to ask if that's what you call it in the reverse.
Yeah, you would call it a single pivot in that case.
Well, Vince, do you think Darren won the game?
I don't know if any of us won that game.
No.
I feel like I won because I was
Travis
educated.
won.
I think we learned some stuff. I
learned
be funny would be to do this test again with actually just the exact same terms and see if Darren remembers them.
No,
but maybe we'll just do that off
every quarter we do it. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
I really don't think I would retain it. I really don't.
Well, I do have a lot more terms.
I think you'll know. You'll know. I think there's at least a couple. You'll be able to fake it better than before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably.
That's true. Yeah, now that you know how it's kind of how
I've got
these are
right
structured.
now in this moment, I learned a lot. I know all of these things. I love that I know all of these things. Ask me again in an hour, it might be different, but for now, this is great.
Darren doesn't know what double pivot means, but he is a nice guy to hang with. He is fun on the pod, but he doesn't know what a false 9 is when Darren doesn't know.
Let's make
All right,
bets.
there we go. I did it for you, Darren. You know what to do.
Who said Travis doesn't have talent?
That was Matt. Isn't Matt Damon singing it in that? Which movie is
He
that?
is.
Eurotrip?
Yeah,
Eurotrip.
that's a big
R.I.P.
cameo.
R.I.P. to Michelle. That was our game. Darren doesn't know. When we come back, we're gonna make some bets.
And we're back. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week we all put up $5. If no one hits, the money rolls over to the next week, and eventually by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. None of our bets hit last week, so the pool for this week is $120.
Oof, time to get serious.
That's money, baby.
Were any of us close?
We Travis and I had Giroud-based bets.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I did have a Bouanga one, but he had to score a penalty.
Penalty.
Yeah.
And right around when he scored and it wasn't a penalty, Giroud came off and we all of our bets went away at like the same time.
Yeah. I would say that our bets last week's game was one of the closest to all of our bets of any game so far.
I felt good about my bet. I thought Giroud was going to get one last game. I have a bet though this week that I've done before, and I am more confident this week than I've ever been confident in any bet that I've ever done. And it's this.
Whoa.
Something's going to go wrong with that lumberjack. I don't know what it is.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone's going to get hurt, but it could be. All I know is we're going to go, something went wrong with that lumberjack.
Wait,
And
how will we know? Will we have to
agree.
see it?
I'm open to this being very broad and
Okay,
open to
so it doesn't have to
interpretation.
be like on broadcast.
We can
like
find
if we
out-
hear about it.
Yes, we can find out 2 days
Okay.
later. By the time we
Yeah.
bet it and forget it again, we have to know that something went wrong with that lumberjack. And something went wrong with that lumberjack during the confines of match day around LAFC, right? It could be on the way to the
if he
stadium.
if he gets in his car and it gets
it
a
explodes?
DUI.
Yes,
It doesn't count.
if the lumberjack gets a DUI, but it has to be match day, right? If he gets a DUI today, doesn't count. But if the lumberjack gets a DUI on match day,
so
counts.
the full 24 hours?
I don't know.
no,
Travis.
not 24 hours.
If the lumberjack's
Well,
out
that's what
there
I'm saying.
getting
Like
a DUI
all day
right
Saturday. Yeah.
now, him being a no-show is something going wrong with
Okay.
that lumberjack.
Oh, him being
Oh.
a no-show would be something going wrong. I'd give him that for sure.
Okay,
Oh, but if he gets a DUI right now and then shows up and everything's fine on
Yes.
match day,
but
nothing went wrong.
it's for the game.
what
right?
if he
It's-
wins?
Yeah.
What if they win 4-0 and he's like, oh, I'm going to have a few pops. And he does like
Then
with the
that
team in the
counts.
locker room. And then he gets in his car and gets a DUI.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
went
something
wrong with
that
the
lumberjack.
Something wrong with that lumberjack.
If they
I
have,
love the way
if they
Darren
have
said
3
it. Yeah,
goals
something
and he
wrong with that
only
lumberjack.
cuts 2 things off the trunk,
Yep.
something went a little bit, but still something went wrong with that lumberjack.
This
Something
sounds like
wrong
a
with that
bad-
lumberjack.
Yeah, this sounds like a
Wrong
bad
with the
punchline or a
lumberjack.
bag joke.
All right, this is gonna be my it's
Something
like the
went wrong with that
catchphrase
lumberjack.
of
Yeah.
of one of those like Southern kings of comedy.
Yeah, it's a Portland Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah, exactly. Something wrong with that lumberjack. I do think no matter what, this is going to be my Portland bet forever.
Yeah,
okay.
that's a good
Fair.
one. If you. All right. I don't have a bet yet.
Okay, then I'm gonna get in front of you and steal this before you can get it. Bouanga goal, Bouanga flip.
I don't know if that's outlandish enough for me.
Hasn't flipped all season.
I think he's due for
barely
both.
scored goals. Yeah, well, that's what bets are, Darren.
I do think that if we release Flipgate as a clip, it could get to him, and then he'll be like, "I got a flip." The people need the flip.
The people do need the flip.
But I'm willing to give it to you, Vince, because it's been.
Wow,
Plus, I know
Bouanga
like you're
goal,
really
Bouanga
fishing for
flip.
the cash right now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, as charity, Vince, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it was gonna be like, well, Steve will be there, and I thought that wouldn't fly here.
Okay, how about this? You also have to predict whether or not he's got a hand bandage on in the game.
But no,
Okay. I
Well,
will
you
look up
also
that
have to
one
predict
moment
whether or
where
not he got a
scores,
new hand
flips
injury.
with a bandage on.
if he walks out with his bandage on, I'm gonna be so pissed.
Gotta make it interesting.
I'll just turn the game off.
You're gonna be at an Angels game. You won't give a shit.
Oh, you think I'm gonna be watching that game? I'll be watching the LAFC game.
The Angels Stadium sucks so bad, man. It's so bad.
It's, you know what's sad is like I grew up there, and the more that they did stuff to it, the more it was like it is worse. Like it wasn't great even like when we were kids, but at least it's like it was just what it was. And they were like, "Well, we're gonna make it better." I'm like, "No, by trying to make it better, you made it worse."
Yeah, like an old shitty stadium is good, right? Like Fenway Park's kind of shitty, and that's what
Yeah.
makes Fenway Park nice. But like they kept when I was there, it felt like a dead mall from the 90s, where it's like it's clear they redid it, but it still sucks.
Well, I love that they opened it up to be like, "Hey, well, now you got this great vista." We're like, "What, of the freeway?" Like, come on.
I was there and the waterfall wasn't working.
Oh, well then, yeah,
Yikes.
you should have got a refund.
Darren,
Okay. Olivier Giroud brace,
Mm-hmm.
and one is from the spot.
that's too hard, Darren.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say
too
you're just
outlandish.
making.
Just say Olivier Giroud brace. We're cool with that.
Yeah.
He might not even
Okay.
play.
Wait, but is he wearing a hand bandage?
No. Okay, Olivier Giroud. I would say Olivier Giroud goal, one or more goals, but if it's only one goal, it has to be from the spot.
Okay.
So you
Why
get
do you make
two-
it? We're cool with brace.
I made it a little bit easier.
Well, he did give himself an extra out, but we'll give it to him.
Okay.
He's
So
saying he
one-
scores 2 goals, and if he only scores 1, then it specifically has to be from.
Right, but that
If he only
requires
scores,
Bouanga to not be in the game, and Bouanga never comes out of the game.
Maybe or I don't
why
know.
does that require Bouanga to be out of the game?
Because Bouanga takes the PKs. You think they're going to give it to Giroud after the fucking dog shit he's been doing for the last 2
Yeah, I mean,
years?
I don't think they do, but there is a world in which he does.
I don't know.
You're wishing Bouanga got injured, Darren? Is that what you're saying?
Honey
Or-
Mukhtar just
no,
gave
I mean,
away his
what if it's
PK
what if
last
it's
week.
yeah, what if
and
it's
it worked out
3-0?
well?
What if it's 3-0
Yeah, okay.
and Bouanga's already scored 2 of the 3, or if he already has a hat trick? There's a
Or
I'm just
Bouanga's
saying.
like, I got my goal. I broke my ice last week. You need to break through. You
Oh,
got
I'm
to
gonna
get
say
your goal.
I'm gonna say unless they're either ahead by a lot. No, actually, it has to be both. They have to be ahead, and Bouanga's had to already scored at least probably 2 for him to even consider handing that ball off.
Yeah, he wants golden boot. All right.
Okay. You know what? I'm
No,
changing
how
it
many
back.
bets do you have?
I'm causing too much controversy. It is just Giroud 2 or more goals.
Great.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
He's not winning anyways.
Something's going to go wrong with that
Hope.
lumberjack and it won't matter. That's
Oh,
our
God
show. Our theme music is done by the insane team of James Valentine, who I saw on Instagram was in a pickleball tournament this week in Vegas, and his partner was Andre Agassi.
Whoa,
What?
Jesus!
Done by the insane team of James Valentine, Nate Walcott, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe and a thumbs up. You know where you can find us. If you want to help us keep making the show, the best way to do it is to become a Patreon over at patreon.com/friendofthefoot. You get a bunch of money off merch. We're going to have new merch eventually this season. You get this podcast without ads. You get to hang out with us on Discord. And a bunch of other, Patreon specific merch. What are the other? There's other things, right? I don't know. Who gives a shit? You're just making us feel good. That's the real reason to do it. This was fun. And we'll see you on the live stream, baby. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
I love that you said this was fun, like it was a question. Like this was fun?
Wow, you got the I love.
Yeah.
And then the letdown.
Real cock tease from La Rosa.
Whoa.